All right, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today on Mobile App Academy, where we show you how to build and configure mobile apps live on the Now platform. My name is Charlie Steiner, product marketer here at ServiceNow. Today we'll walk you through how to set up mobile app mentions and how they relate to your mobile push notifications. If you're joining us for the first time, we want to welcome you to Mobile App Academy. This is a live building series that focuses on managing and building out mobile apps in real time. And we have product experts on hand to provide guidance, best practices, and answer any of your questions in the chat. We host these sessions every 2 weeks here on Zoom at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and our recordings will be posted to our YouTube playlist on the ServiceNow community channel Thursday morning Pacific time as well. And as always, just before we get started, for anyone new, we'd love to point out a few resources that we have on our mobile community page, which will be linked in the chat shortly. We definitely recommend you check these out if you're new to mobile, because we have tons of great guidebooks and white papers that will be updated for Rome on our community site. And we also have a plethora of other resources like Now Learning modules and trainings, as well as our playlist to our most recent App Academies and our history of App Academies, where you can find sessions like how to deploy Now Mobile, getting started with Mobile Card Builder and user experience analytics, and our most recent session, which I believe, and if I remember correctly, was on actionable push notifications. So do be sure to check out that playlist, which will be also linked in the chat shortly. And a final thing to note is if you enjoyed this App Academy, we do have tons of other great Academy series from our sister teams in Virtual Agent, as well as HR and Performance Analytics and Reporting, as well as the Platform Foundation Group. And all these teams do a great job, and we definitely recommend you check them out if these are product areas that you're interested in, and do be sure to let them know that you came from us. You can navigate to their respective App Academy pages by clicking on the Forums tab and navigating to their respective forum. And one final thing to note is if you did miss our What's New in Mobile for Rome webinar on October 6th, which was live, the recording is now up and on demand and available, and that link will be in the chat shortly. We had a great attendance, so thank you all for those of you who did come, and do be sure to check it out on demand if it's something that interests you. With all that being said, I'd love to pass it off to David Ha to take us away for today's session. David?
Academy. My name is David Ha, and I'll be your host for today. And as always, I have Fu Ho with me, who's a solution architect on the mobile team here at ServiceNow. And we want to give a warm welcome to everyone joining us live. And for today's topic, we're going to show you how to trigger push notifications when you use app mentions in your activity stream for your Now mobile app. And this will actually help improve your overall engagement of your apps. In the last few sessions, we already showed you how you can build a basic mobile push notification, how you can create deep links, and even create actionable push notifications. But now for the final part of our mobile notification series, we're now going to show you how you can trigger mobile push notifications whenever a user is mentioned in the activity stream, okay? And just to quickly review, for today's schedule, this will be a pretty quick building session. It'll take just about 25 minutes. And then we'll jump into our exercise for today. We'll deep dive on how you can build or enable push app mentions from scratch, and then show you some common troubleshooting tips and tricks. And then we'll open up some Q&A afterwards, okay? For the folks who are still new to mobile, I'd recommend that you check out our introduction sessions on how to get started with your mobile implementations. If you're still trying to learn the basics around configuring things like Now Mobile requests, how to customize app launchers, create actions, or even where do I go to get started with my Now Mobile implementations, then I highly recommend that you check out our past sessions where all these topics have already been covered. We've uploaded all these recordings onto our mobile community site, as well as our YouTube playlist, as Charlie has mentioned. So definitely check those out if you haven't already. But with all that said, let's now dive into the overview. So app mentions. App mentions is a new feature that was released in Quebec. And this enables users to alert anyone that they tag in the activity stream of their applet via push notification. Most commonly, this is used between field service agents. When there's time-sensitive tasks, you want to be able to instantly alert your teammates so that they can respond or complete the task at hand. When it comes to mobile, we really just want to focus on enabling the most important moments for our users. And it's moments like these where we can make our apps more engaging so that your users know when to jump back into their apps so that they can respond in time or complete their tasks on time. Okay. So the @mentioned feature is supported for both agent and now mobile clients. And in fact, for today, we'll be enabling the @mentions for our now mobile app. We're going to make it more engaging for employees to be able to add comments and notify their contacts. And to be able to build an @mention push notification, there's essentially 4 main steps to configure one. And it's pretty much the same steps as configuring a standard mobile push notification, something that we've already covered in our past session. Step number 1, we create the push message content, which contains a JSON, or otherwise known as the layout of our notification, right? Step 2 is we create the push notification record, and that helps determine, how it gets triggered, what gets sent, who it gets sent to, and then what that message will say, right? And then step 3 is you create the push notification message, which defines what message gets deployed. And then lastly, you just have to register your push so that it shows up on your user's device, whether it's going to be on the agent client or on the now mobile client. So the configuration steps look pretty much identical to building a standard push notification. But what makes this configuration unique and enables the @mention support is that when we build the push message content in step number 1, as well as the push notification event in step number 2, we're going to be pointing it to a very specific table. And that table is called live notifications. And that's basically where our activity stream lives. And so that it will allow your app to know that you want support for @mentions. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to now show you how you can configure this from scratch. The use case for today, we're going to be building inside of my task applet for now mobile for requested items, or what we call rhythms, right? We're going to enable @mentions so that anytime you make a comment and you tag a user, that user will be notified via push notification. And we'll typically tag someone in the activity stream so that we can get their intention and there's a task at hand or we need some sort of response. So we'll enable @mentions for that so that our users are more engaged and they'll respond faster. Okay, so to get started, let's go ahead and jump into our instance. And to build our push notification, we're going to start by creating our push message content, right? So on our left-hand nav here, we're going to look up push. We're going to scroll down under system notifications. And the first thing that we want is this push message content table. And we're going to create a new one. Okay, and we can name this @mentions for now mobile. The push app is going to be for the request application. So there's going to be 2 clients, right? If you look at our product docs, you're going to see that mobile application stands for ServiceNow agent, and then request stands for the now mobile client. You just have to remember requester is for the employee, and the employee is for now mobile, right? So we're going to set that to the now mobile client. And then it's going to ask for a push message JSON. So we can retrieve the template JSON from our product docs. If we go to our product docs and we look up @mention configure notifications for mobile activity stream mentions, this should be the right docs. And then I open this up for Quebec. And then there's a link that says configure push notifications for @mentions. And then we're going to scroll down here to step number D. And here I can copy this sample JSON code. Okay, we're going to copy this and then paste it into our push message generation. And now, just like when we build standard push notifications, the 2 things that are most important here is it's going to ask for the client type, and it's also going to ask for the sys ID of your form screen. For @mentions, this specifically will work for form screens only, right? Because activity streams live in the form screen. Okay, so let's fill out this first variable here for client type. If we go back to our product docs, it's going to say that there's 2 options. well, two options moving forward, because if you watch the webinar at the Rome, what's new for mobile in Rome, you'll notice that we mentioned that onboarding is going to be deprecated. If you want more information on that, definitely check out that webinar. It has lots of information. Okay. But what we want is request. Okay. So we're going to copy this and we are going to paste it in here. Okay. So now I filled in the client that I want, and now it's also going to ask me for the sys ID of my form screen. Okay. So the form screen that I want is, if you look at my mobile app, I'm going to open up my task applet, and I'm going to have a few tasks here. There's some that's for request, and then I have some for requested items. We want the requested item. It looks like there is an approval for an Apple iPad 3 from Alex, right? But actually, I'm going to use this one down below. I'm going to say there's an approval here for an Apple iPad 3. And I want the sys ID of this form screen, right? Because I have a detail screen as a segment, and then also have my activity stream as a segment. Since my activity stream lives in this form screen, this is the screen that I want. Approve requested item. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate my tab here, and I'm going to look up applets. And then I'm going to look up applets under the Now mobile app or applet launchers. And then we'll find this by navigating through the applet launcher. So I know that this lives on the home tab for my items. And in the body, there is a section for my items. We'll jump into the correct scope, and then you can see all of my different applets here. Right, you have my task, request, and so forth. We want the my task. We'll open up the list screen. Inside the list screen, we have to go into the activity stream segment. And again, if this navigation is foreign to you, we did cover a mobile hierarchy, Mobile App Academy, which explains what each one of these tables mean and what you can do with each one. So definitely check out that mobile hierarchy video in our YouTube playlist. It will definitely help a lot. And then we're going to navigate to approval to-dos, because this is an approval task. And then I want the approval for my requested items. Okay, so now this takes me to my item configuration for requested items. So I'm going to now switch into the correct scope. And on this, this has an embedded screen, and this embedded screen is always a form screen. This is the form screen that I want. So I'm going to open up this record. And now I have the correct form screen that I want. It's the my task, approve requested item form screen, and then I have approve requested form screen. And you can see that there's two segments, one for details and updates. Okay, so now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy the sys ID of this form screen. Okay, and I'm going to paste this somewhere, just so I don't lose it. And then we'll go back into our configuration, and then we'll look at this JSON layout. And all we're going to do here is we're going to paste this sys ID here, where it's asking for the form screen. Okay. And then I noticed that this sample JSON is using the incorrect quotes. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to want the double quotes. And then now it should work. Okay. So Fu, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I had a single apostrophe, I don't think that would have worked, right?
Yeah, they both have to match.
Yeah. So I think that was like a typo on product docs. We'll make sure to get that fixed. Okay. So now we now know that this is going to open up the Now mobile app, and it's going to take us to this form screen, which is the form screen that we want. So now we're done with this message content record, so we can submit. So that was step number one. Pretty standard. This is we're following the exact same steps as you would have to take to build a standard push notification. So we're going to move on to step number two, which is now we're going to create the actual push notification event, right? We're going to scroll down on our left-hand nav and go to push notifications under system notification. And we're going to create a new notification record. Right? And this is going to ask, when to send, who will receive, and what it will contain. Okay. So let's name this @mention for now mobile. For the table, this is where the configuration becomes unique for just @mentions. This table has to point to live_notification. This is the table that we're going to want to enable @mentions for your activity stream. Okay. And then we're going to scroll down here to when to send. On this table is just, anytime there's a comment that is inserted or updated, and we're good here. It should get triggered. For who will receive, we'll just make sure that my logged in user is receiving it to make sure that it works. Okay. But again, you can modify this so that, it sends to groups of users or, anyone that you want this push to work. Maybe you want it to work for just your field service agents. That's totally possible too. And then for the what it will contain, the most important field here is this push message field. This is specific for mobile. Okay, so we're going to unlock this and we're going to create a new push message so that we can define what that message is going to display on our banner. So we're going to open this up and then create a new record. And then we're going to name this, @mention for now mobile. Again, the push app is going to be for the requester. For now mobile. Push message content, we just created that in our first step, and we call that @mention for now mobile. And then for the table, this is also the part where it's unique. We want to point this to live notifications. Okay. And then for our message, we can just say, you have been mentioned, and then we'll submit. Okay. So that's pretty much all the important fields that I want to fill in here. I'll ignore all this other stuff. You can fill these out if you want, but I have the trigger, how it gets triggered, who's going to receive it, and then what it will contain. So I'm all done here. So that completes our second and third step. The very last step is we now just have to register our push notification. And to do that, we're going to go to our left-hand nav, and we're going to scroll down to push application. And push application, these are all the different clients that your instance has access to, right? You have some for, if you're using some sort of MAM solution, you might be using like our Intune apps or BlackBerry apps, but if you're not, you won't see this on your instance. So it really just depends what you're using. But what's most important to me is I want this ServiceNow request application. This is my now mobile client. If you're looking for the agent client, that one would be called ServiceNow mobile. It would be this one. This would be your agent client, and then this is our now mobile client, okay? We're gonna open up our now mobile client. And then the most important related list on this screen here is this push default registrations. If you're working on a new instance, this won't be enabled by default. You'll actually have to go into your related list. And from this related list, you'll have to pull this over here, push default registration to push applications, okay? So just wanna call that out in case you don't see this on your instance. And now, on this related list, we're going to register our notification that we just built, which is called @mention for now mobile. Okay. And now our our notification is registered to our device, the very last thing that I have to do is just log out and log back in. That is required for any push notification, any new ones that you create, or anytime you modify them, you'll have to log out and log back in for that push to work. Okay, so we're just going to go and log out and log back in. Whoops, wrong instance. We'll log into our Quebec instance, and then we'll log in with our user. Okay. So to test if this works, I'm now going to go and open up one of my tasks. I think I currently have Do Not Disturb on, so let me go and turn this back off for just a quick second, just so that you can see the push notification. Okay. And then I'm going to go into one of these request items here. Let's say there's an approval for an iPad 3, right? And let's say, I'm just going to try and trigger my logged in user. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say, need this approved by tomorrow, and then we'll post. Okay, so now to make sure that this push has been triggered, I'm going to go into my push logs. If I scroll down on our left-hand nav, there's system logs for push notification. And then I'm seeing that there are some that are pending. I'm seeing multiple just because there might be other out-of-the-box push notifications that might already be active on this instance, and I just forgot to turn them off. But it looks like I got that notification. It might be triggering other ones as well, but I know that it works. If I now tap into one of these notifications, it should take me into the correct screen as well, right? So now I can see what is the latest activity, and then I can take action as needed. If I need to approve this by tomorrow, I'll go and approve it, and there we go. If we refresh my task, you'll see that the approval disappears. Okay, so that's pretty much it to enable @mentions for push notifications. One other call out. So I configured, I enabled @mentions specifically for this one screen, right? This is for requested items. Just know that request is also a different screen. When I was navigating through my different applets and screens, when I take you to Applet Launcher and went into Home, and we go into my items, right? I have the My Task applet, and if I open this up and then go down to To-Dos, you're going to see that there's a whole bunch of different item streams. And if you want to enable all of these, you'll actually have to go into each one. So, I did approvals for requested items. If I also want to do it for requests, I would have to go into this item configuration and then go into the embedded screen here. Notice that this form screen has a different name. This indicates to me that this is actually a completely different form screen. And so if I wanted @mentions to work on this too, I'll have to configure another push notification. Okay, so I just want to call that out. This isn't a one configuration and all of a sudden everything works. You do have to be, excuse me, intentional about which ones you want to enable. So just thought I'd call that out. Okay. But that pretty much wraps up our configuration for @mentions. Any questions in the chat, Fu, that we want to call out?
Yeah, that was a great presentation, David. So we have one question from OU. Is the @mention notification happening within mobile apps only? What happens if the mentioned person do not have the app? Will the person see it elsewhere?
Oh, so the user definitely has to have the app on their device, right? If they're not logged in, they won't get the notification until they log back in. So The expected experience is, I believe, let me share my screen again. I, I need to confirm, but I think if they receive a notification and they log back in, there might be notifications that should be backlogged on this screen here. Fu, do you know the answer off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's actually, the answer is yes. So I want to show you something else. So the question is, yes, you have to have the application installed on the device. So what's happening in the background is that when your device logs into the instance would generate a thing called a push token, and that push token is unique to that device. Okay, so it knows that when you mention this person, it's going to send that that push to that device token. And let me see if I can get that. I actually have the table name for that. So I'll give you an example. Like when David was actually setting push notification, I was logged in on my device, but David was logging in as admin, and I was also logged in as admin. So when he mentioned himself as an admin, his device was getting the push notification, so did my device as well. So it spans across multiple devices as long as that person is logged into that. So that person can have multiple devices, and it's going to send that push to every device if that person is logged in. So does that kind of make sense? But you do have to have the application installed.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for answering that, Fu. Any other questions that we want to call out from the chats? I'm seeing a question from Mike. Mike asked, you said that these notifications require Quebec. Which element of this is not available before Quebec? So @mentions was actually a very specific feature that was released in Quebec. So it's just push notifications for @mentions. If you want regular standard notifications, that's possible across all releases. And then we also covered actionable push notifications. That was in our last session. That was specific for Paris and beyond. So these are all just enhancements and new features that we're building upon the standard push notification. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Fu, any other questions you want to highlight from the chats?
Another one is from, what is the purpose behind using live notification table? Live notification table, I'm not sure.
Fu, when we targeted the live notification table on the push message content, I can show it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we go to push message content, and then we open up the one that we just created. Oh no, message content. Yeah. Oh no, actually, sorry. I thought we defined a table here. Okay. Anyways, we can also go to the push notification. Mentions for now mobile. So this is the only way for the notification to understand that this push notification is specifically for your activity stream. So this is enabling the push message to trigger anytime that a comment is tagging someone. So if we didn't have this table, right, and I wanted to tag someone, oh wait, yeah, if I wanted to tag someone, this live notification table is pointing here and is looking for any time that someone is tagged. So hopefully that answers your question, Elisa.
David, I'm going to post on chat the table. Can you go to that table? It's basically sys. underscore push. So there was a question related to, in order to target the device with the token, does ServiceNow track the logged in user and the device? So there's a table. This is the one I was looking for, actually. This is what I meant by, so you notice how, okay, so this is the token I was talking about. So when a device logs in, it generates a special token, a unique token for that device. And you notice how David was logged in as system administrator and so forth. And also notice, it also tells you what device, it's Apple or if it's Google. Of course, we're all using Apple here. And it also tells you if it's a requester or if it's a Now app and so forth. And then you notice how there's two sysadmins. It's because I'm logged in as well. That's why it gives me a token for my device. And then David's logged in as admin on his device. So this is where you find out more information about it. And then, of course, you can deactivate and activate. So to answer your question about the ServiceNow track the logged in user, as you can see, we do track the user. You see Alex and so forth. But this is the table that you want to see when it was last registered. Hopefully that answers your question.
See if there are any other questions in the chat. If not, we could probably wrap up. Oh yes, is it possible to include additional info in the test you've been mentioned? Yes, so when we were configuring this, if you want to change the message here, that is just controlled off of the push message itself, right? So when we configured push, so maybe I kind of skimmed through it. So when we created the push notification event, right? Here's the record for it. I mentioned that when we go into what it will contain, the most important field here is push message. This push message controls the message that appears on your notification screen. So if you can define however you want that info to include, you would just configure it on this record. It's going to ask for the message. I could totally control changes to something else if I wanted to. If you wanted a specific record name, you can also make it dynamic too, right? I don't know the field name off the top of my head, but it is totally possible. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, OU. Perfect. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up most of the questions. One last one from Mike. Does notification show up in the user's notification settings so that they can enable or disable it? Show up in the user's notification settings. Oh, yes. So if you wanted to enable or disable notifications, you just go into settings and then notification preferences. You can totally turn this on or off. Okay.
I think you can also do it on your platform settings.
Yeah.
So on your gear. No, on in the instance.
Oh, I see.
So you're logged in as sys administrator right there, and I think on your gear. Yeah. I think there's a notification right there. Yeah. And it's on the very top. Oh yeah, I can do it there too.
So I can go into specifically for Now Mobile, and then I can control all of these different notifications.
Yep. By default, it's all turned on.
Yeah. Now, if you want the user to control specific notifications, this is not currently supported. It's either all on or all off. But you can see here that you can turn it on for Now Mobile, and then you can also turn it on for Agent. So you have that flexibility, but for specific, if you have 13 notifications, you can't only accept 6 out of 13. So hopefully that makes sense. Perfect. All right, so I think that wraps up all the questions that we have for today. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us on Mobile Community. But with that said, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you found this session helpful, please let us know in our post-session survey. There's going to be a couple questions that ask what topics you want us to explore in the future. And we love getting that kind of feedback from all of you. just to make sure that, the stuff that we're covering is relevant to you. So make sure to let us know in the survey. If you're interested in any of our past mobile app academies, we do record these and upload them to YouTube, which you can also find on our mobile community site. So make sure to subscribe to our mobile community forum, register to our mobile app academy series so that you can get the latest notifications and updates. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.